to be with you today and to be invited virtually to this Green Talks event. Many thanks to Professor Ranjit Dissanayake and the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka for inviting me to this session. I'm really excited to be part of such an important initiative and to be working in partnership with the British High Commission, the Sri Lankan government, and the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka to support the sustainable buildings and future cities community here in Sri Lanka. I would like to cover three key themes today: the UK's overall COP presidency and our campaign priorities, our engagement in the Asia Pacific and South Asia region, including, of course, through my own role as regional COP ambassador, and to provide a UK perspective on the importance of greener, more sustainable building standards. And I very much look forward to hearing Dr. Chinandra's Sirawandana's presentation later on the sustainability in the construction industry after the COVID-19 pandemic. So, as you may already know, COP, or the Conferences of the Parties, was established as the supreme body of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, established in May 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. Every year since 1995, COP meetings have been attended by environmental experts, by ministers, heads of state, and non-governmental organizations to review progress on implementation of the convention. Each COP elaborates and builds on the decisions and resolutions of the ones that have gone before. And while it's true that the world in this quarter century has improved its vision on issues such as global warming, climate change, wind energy, solar energy, green cities, and electric cars, there's still an awful lot to do. And I don't need to explain to you all what the adverse impact of climate change will be to an island like Sri Lanka. One doesn't need to be a scientist to recognize the extent of Sri Lanka's rich biodiversity, but also recognize its vulnerability to the adverse effects of climate change, such as temperature rise, rainfall variability, and sea level rises. Alas, we are not today on track to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or even 2 degrees Celsius. And if we don't step up global action, then there will be irreversible consequences and a catastrophic environmental, human, and economic cost. So this year, the UK is privileged to have the presidency for COP26, which will be held in Glasgow this November. Despite the delay to COP26, as it was meant to be hosted in 2020, and also the disruption that the current pandemic has caused, the UK is determined that COP26 must deliver a strong international response to the climate emergency. Up to 30,000 delegates and 200 world leaders are expected to attend the summit, and we see our COP presidency as a massive opportunity and also responsibility for the UK to act as an honest broker, to consolidate and to drive forward global climate ambition, and to ensure that ambition transfers into real action. We're committed to an inclusive conference that engages the full range of parties, including business and civil society, that can contribute to reducing climate change from all around the world. And of course, Sri Lanka is a key part of that equation. As our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, recently stated, we owe it to future generations to build back better and base our recovery on solid foundations, including a fairer, greener, and more resilient global economy. The UK will take this forward by hosting the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow next year. And in the context of COP, I'm pleased to note the UK has been leading by example. You may have noticed our Prime Minister announcing new ambitious targets to reduce UK emissions by at least 68% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. This target is among the highest in the world, and it commits the UK to cutting emissions at the fastest rate of any major economy so far. In fact, over the past decade, the UK has cut carbon emissions by more than any similar developed country and was the first major economy to legislate for net zero emissions by 2050. The UK's path to meeting these targets is also backed by our Prime Minister's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, which will create and support up to 250,000 British jobs by 2030. The plan sets out ambitious policies and investment and provides a roadmap of further action we'll take to reduce emissions in coming decades. And we're encouraging similar levels of ambition from businesses, organisations and nations around the world. Examples of our own action include producing 40 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030, or enough to power every single household in the UK. So overall, our key objectives for COP in November can be described as, first of all, ensuring country leaders make new and ambitious commitments under the 3 pillars of the Paris Agreement: mitigation, finance, and adaptation. Ensuring that voices from across business, non-state actors, and civil society are featured to call for action on climate change, and ensuring the event sets out a vision and ambition on the road to COP26 to bring global focus back to climate change and a shift in momentum. Our engagement is particularly important in Asia, given Asia's role as the driver of the global economy. I've been really pleased to see governments across Asia set out new net zero targets in recent months and accelerate the rollout of renewable energy. This stands to help Asian economies continue to stay at the front of the innovation curve in coming years, and it will deliver higher growth for their citizens through a green recovery from the current pandemic. And so all of this is why it's so important that we work with institutions like the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka to share knowledge and information and to work together to promote a greener and a more sustainable future. So why are sustainable and green building standards so important for this agenda? Well, as I mentioned earlier, in 2019, the UK government introduced a legally binding target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. It's clear that the energy efficiency of buildings and construction are a key part of adapting to the challenges of climate change, and so they're a key part of the UK's COP and climate ambition and targets, with heating and power buildings currently accounting for 40% of the UK's total energy usage. But what's the UK doing to improve the energy efficiency of our buildings? Well, only in January, the UK government set out rigorous new targets for a green building revolution, where all homes and businesses will have to meet rigorous energy efficiency standards to lower energy consumption and bills, helping to protect the environment. Existing homes will be subject to higher standards, with a significant improvement on the standard for extensions, making homes warmer and reducing bills. And these radical new standards will not only improve energy efficiency of existing homes and other buildings, but will also ensure our new homes are fit for the future by reducing emissions from new homes by at least 75% too. Overall, these new plans will ensure all homes are highly energy efficient with low carbon heating and will be zero carbon ready by 2025. And just to reinforce the key message here, improving the energy performance of buildings is vital to achieving net zero emissions by 2050 and protecting the environment for future generations to come. And this applies not only to the UK, but to our global environmental efforts. And of course, that includes Sri Lanka too. So while I can confidently say much progress has been made, I can also say with certainty there is much more to do. But the UK wants to lead by example. Finally, before I sign off, I know that my colleagues at the British High Commission have been working hard to make the connections that will allow for a more technical discussion on building standards and have reached out to a number of parties in the UK, including the British Standards Institution around building standards and the International Organization for Standardization. In fact, we very much hope that a colleague from the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, Ms. Mina Hasman, will be able to speak at a future Green Event session about the recently published Climate Action Framework, advancing education and capacity building on climate action, and how to upskill and increase capacity around climate-related matters. And I'd also note that Professor Peter Clegg, a leading UK practitioner on green construction, has also expressed an interest in delivering a session with you all too. I hope very much that these short remarks have given you an overview of COP and the UK's role as this year's hosts, and that this introduction will help to concrete the ties between UK and Sri Lanka and allow a continued exchange on building standards and green construction going forward. Once again, thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing the session.